Seeing that the intermediate beast was patrolling around the storage room, Ian and Vorden had decided to go to a different part of the shelter. "Any ideas of where the portal might be?" Vorden asked. "My guess is somewhere underground. It's safe for most of the beasts that way. Most likely they have a special building that looks like any other and a secret entrance." "Wait, so are you saying we just have to keep going into buildings?" "Well, we can rule out all the residential buildings. They wouldn't be able to build a large enough base under those, and any of the small buildings or dangerous areas you can rule out as well. There are only so many big buildings that would be large enough to store a big base under." The two of them continued to look into building after building, but there was no luck or no sign of a secret room. Eventually, they entered what looked like a library. That's when a loud rumbling sound had come from Vorden's belly. "I guess we've been traveling for a while now. Why don't we rest here for the night? It doesn't look like there are any beasts here, and we can build our own fortress," Ian said. There were large holes and broken down walls on the first floor, which made it easy for beasts to attack them. Once they had reached the second floor, the two of them started to lift up a few of the bookshelves. It seemed like Ian had the ability of super strength, seeing how easily he moved the heavy bookshelves, but Vorden knew that wasn't true. The reason why Ian seemed like he had extra strength was actually from the beast armor he was wearing. Vorden helped out in his own way by clearing a space and moving all the books and piles of rubbish away. After an hour or so, they were done. "It's a nice home, isn't it?" Ian said proudly of his work. "Well, what are you waiting for? Come on, let's go inside." He then pulled out a little small stone from his pocket and placed it on the ground in the center of the room. He tapped the stone once, and a warm orange light started to shine from it. "Here, take this," Ian said as he handed a small circle pill to Vorden. "Is this a food supplement?" Vorden asked. "Yeah, I'm guessing if you came here by accident, you don't have any with you." Vorden looked at the pill before shoving it down his throat and into the stomach. A food supplement was a pill that contained all the things a human needed to live. As long as a person took one pill of these a day, they no longer needed to eat. "You'll get some sleep and I'll keep watch. Then we'll do a little switch later on," Ian said. "Sounds good?" "Yeah." As he heard the sound of the door unlocking, a grin appeared on his face. "I love you, System. I swear I'll never talk badly about you ever again," Quinn said as he stepped into the container. But as he stepped in, his hopes of finding legendary beast equipment or stashes of beast crystals were soon lost. The room was simply filled with shelves of books. Nothing else but books. However, as soon as Quinn picked up one of the books closest to him, his mind had quickly changed. It was a container room filled with ability and skill books. Although Quinn was unable to learn the ability, he immediately converted the book into EXP points. As soon as Quinn decided to convert the book into EXP, it started to vanish in his very hands, as if it was disintegrating. After absorbing the first book, Quinn started to pick up book after book. After going through the books, Quinn found out that a level 1 skill book would give him 5 EXP points, while a level 1 ability book would give him 10 EXP points. Quinn got closer to the back of the container and found that the level of books would increase. After leveling up, Quinn immediately put his stat point into strength, and now without his gauntlets, his strength was at 15, meaning he would be able to perform the hammer strike skill with or without the gauntlets. As Quinn looked around the room, there were still several books he hadn't even touched yet. The place really was a goldmine for him. As he went on to the next set of shelves, with it came a new set of books. He placed his hand on the first one, and it was the first level 3 ability book he had come across. Quinn placed the book down and picked the book up, making sure he had heard the system right. But once again, the numbers he had received were correct. The level 3 ability book was offering him 1,000 experience points. He once again went on rampage, grabbing every book he could on the shelf, absorbing those that he couldn't and tossing the others on the ground. No new skills were unlocked, but Quinn still obtained the regular stat points for every level up. Now that his strength and agility were at level 15, he decided he should finally increase his stamina points. Quinn had now nearly touched every single book that was in the storage room. Unfortunately, the highest ability Quinn was able to find so far was a level 3 ability book. The further he went into the container, the higher the levels, but for the last few shelves it didn't seem to be the case. It seemed like they were just duplicates of the other level 3 ability books. As Quinn picked up one book, the system message didn't go off. It was because it was a level 3 Earth ability book that he had already absorbed. "Hey, maybe Peter could use this," Quinn thought. It was only one book. Quinn was sure he would be able to carry it safely with him. But as soon as he thought about Peter, a memory entered his mind, and it wasn't a good one. Peter was the whole reason why he was in this place. And he still didn't know how long he was going to be here, or if he would even be able to survive. To be honest, Quinn was just trying to make the best out of a bad situation at the moment. As he thought about Peter, anger started to enter his mind and body, and he ripped the book up. Then, as Quinn looked around the container, he noticed there was one shelf at the very back of the room where he hadn't been yet. He didn't bother going over there yet because it looked empty from a distance, but as he got closer, he noticed there was a single book that had been placed there. As he touched the book on the shelf, a new message appeared. Out of shock, Quinn dropped the book back onto the shelf and took a step back. "Ability is compatible with system. Would you like to learn?" Out of all the books in the room, it was the first time he had ever received a message of this kind. Then Quinn started to think back to the name of the ability, Shadow Element. It was something he had never even heard of before, and Quinn was quite knowledgeable about the abilities of the world. After thinking about it for a long time, he decided he would try to place the book in his storage. And to his surprise, it worked. The ability book was safely put into his system storage with his beast crystals. Before learning the ability, Quinn wanted to make sure he could find out more about it first. Maybe then he could find out why it was compatible with his vampire system, and if so, maybe there were other abilities that would be compatible as well. After storing the book away, he decided to close the door to the container unit and remain inside. It was safe here, and he was starting to feel tired. At least he knew the container was strong enough to protect him from whatever beast remained outside. He lied on the floor and in an instant closed his eyes. His body was pressed against the cold hard floor. His eyelids slowly started to open, and all he could see was a white light. For a moment while Quinn was sleeping, he had forgotten about everything that happened. But as soon as he looked around him and realized where he was, and he knew that everything wasn't a dream. Right now, he wasn't at the school, but was on a completely different planet miles away from home. It was a surprise that he slept so well on the floor without a bed. Without realizing it, he was more exhausted than he thought. "Your hunger grows. Daily quest complete. Avoid direct sunlight for 8 hours. And at last, the system message had appeared. This meant that in one more day's time, the system would inform him that he needed to consume human blood. He was okay for now, as he still had 50 milliliters of blood in his bank. As long as he didn't get in any more fights, he would be fine. The most important thing for him to do now was to find that portal. As he went to open the steel door, Quinn was half expecting that the sun might be out. After all, the message appearing meant it was a new day. But as he opened the door, he was surprised to see it was still night out. However, his mind was quickly distracted by something else. Quinn immediately closed the door back up to the container. He placed his hand on his chest, feeling his heart beating at an incredible speed. "What was that?" Quinn thought. "That was no rat, that's for sure." This time, Quinn went to the steel door again. He placed his hand on the metallic handle once again and slowly opened the door to take a peek, and as he did, a large beast stood inside the hangar. With the body of a human but the bottom half of a scorpion-like creature, Quinn couldn't make out what it was. From the human half of its body, it also had 2 claws on each side. "Inspect. Scordana, intermediate level beast." After finding out what little information was available about the beast, Quinn quickly closed the door once again. Although Quinn had grown 3 levels while inside the container, he still felt like dealing with an intermediate beast would almost be impossible for him. The weakest of intermediate beasts were at least 10 times stronger than a basic tier beast. Of course, this would depend on the beast, for there were some beasts that were just easier to deal with than others, no matter what tier they were at. But looking at the creature, Quinn could tell it would be a tough battle. After waiting for what felt like a considerable amount of time, he decided to open the door once again to check if the beast was still there, and unfortunately, it was. That was when Quinn noticed something else that was in the hangar that wasn't there before. There were 3 round objects right next to the Scordana, placed in a pile of scrap metal. "Are those eggs?" Quinn thought. "Inspect. Scordana eggs, intermediate beast level." As he saw the eggs, a horrible thought had entered his mind. Quinn hadn't noticed them before, meaning she must have just laid them out while he was in the container, or they might have been hidden somewhere. But the first was more likely. Now the fact that her eggs were here meant the beast would protect them until they hatched, or at least it wouldn't be moving for a while. This felt like a risky option for Quinn, for he himself was on a time frame. Then there was the second option. If the Skordana had just given birth, then there was a chance she was weaker compared to usual. With the second option, he had to make a decision as soon as possible. In the end, Quinn gritted his teeth and stepped out of the container. Before even thinking of fighting against the beast, he would try his best to sneak out. The entrance to the front of the hangar was completely destroyed. The beast, when entering, had ripped apart the two metallic doors before coming in. The problem was, the beast was blocking that exit, but that still left Quinn with the small hole in the wall from where he had entered. Carefully moving in between piles of scrap metal and rubbish, Quinn slowly moved across the room to the other side where he had first entered. Then, when he finally had reached the hole, he could see something else entering from the other side. It was a Rataclaw. Oh no! As soon as the Rataclaw pulled its body through the small hole, it immediately looked up to see Quinn. Before he even had a chance to run away, Rataclaw started squealing like mad. "Shut up! Why did you have to come here now of all times?" Then the sound of several steps was heard from behind. Quinn didn't have time to turn around to know what it was, but he did so anyway, and as he did, a giant claw was swung down towards his head. Now that the Skordana had spotted Quinn, he had no choice but to stand his ground and fight. As the scorpion creature turned, it immediately started charging forward. Hoping to scare it away and do some damage, Quinn let out 2 blood swipes. As the blood swipe made impact, the scorpion was pushed back a few steps, but no damage could be seen, not even a white scratch mark on the claws. As Quinn looked and inspected the creature even closer, he could see that every part of the beast was covered in some type of shell apart from the upper body. That was the beast's weak point, and that's where he needed to hit. Then as Quinn readied his hand to cast his blood swipe skill, he felt a sharp pain in his back. As he looked up, he could see something connected to his body, and when he followed it, it went behind the beast. The beast then lifted Quinn with the tail and chucked him hard up against the wall. As he fell to the ground, his HP had taken a huge hit. As Quinn looked into his stomach, he could see a large puncture had been created, and blood was quickly flowing out of his body. Critical hit, 10 of 45 HP. Blood bank empty, 35 of 45 HP. With his health nearly full, his wounds had healed up almost instantly, and Quinn was able to move once again. Looking at the scorpion, he noticed the tail truly wasn't there. Is it able to take it into his body and out at will? This is going to be a pain. There were no more second chances. A battle of strength was being displayed between the two. The red swipes were powerful and started to knock the beast back, and eventually, even the claws started to crack, but neither of them gave up. 13 of 45 HP. When the beast was close enough, finally the tail was revealed from above. While its claws covered and blocked its body from the swipes, its plan was to attack from above with its long, large tail. As it fired its tail downward, just before the tail could pierce Quinn again, flash step! Suddenly, Quinn was no longer in front of the scorpion and now was directly behind it. Hammer strike! Then a few moments later, the beast had collapsed to the ground, and so had Quinn, completely exhausted. As he lifted his hands, his gauntlets had completely shattered. Skordana has been killed, 1000 EXP. First intermediate beast kill, 5000 EXP. First Skordana killed, 2000 EXP. Right now he had a serious problem. His health was incredibly low. 13 of 45 HP, and with his blood bank empty, there was no way for him to heal it back to normal. After waiting a few moments for his stamina to rise back up, he walked up to the dead Skordana's body. Finally, after tearing and rummaging through several limbs, the beast crystal was obtained and stored in his system once again. Now, Quinn looked at the eggs in the room. As he went forward, he lifted one of the eggs. He took a few steps back before lifting it into the air and slamming it into the ground. Black blood had been splattered all across the floor, and a little half-grown scorpion could be seen inside. Skordana egg killed, 1000 EXP. Congratulations, you are now level 9, 13 of 50 HP. The system hadn't given his health back like he thought it might have done. Your hunger grows. You can no longer suppress your need for blood. Your HP will decrease by -1 HP every hour until you have consumed human blood. Due to Quinn's energy and most of his blood being used in the fight earlier, his body was now no longer naturally healing itself. He was too hungry to heal and would need blood. With 13 points, that's 13 hours before I reach 0, and that's only if I don't use any of my skills or get injured along the way. I have no choice. I have to try to find the portal, Quinn said. Before leaving the hangar, Quinn had to think hard about just where the portal would be. All he knew was that they had to place it somewhere safe, somewhere the beasts wouldn't be able to get to it. As he walked through the city, he decided to tread very carefully. Once in a while, he would come across a building with beasts inside. As he entered the buildings, there would be cases where Quinn had spotted them far up ahead in the darkness. He quickly would shift and hide in the shadows or behind walls, waiting for the beast to leave, and when he was ready, he would zoom past and around. 11 of 50 HP. The hunger in his belly was starting to distract him, and it was getting harder for him to focus as his health had gone down. Then finally, Quinn had spotted another building that was relatively in good condition. The training center, a place where travelers could come and test out their skills or practice with new equipment. As Quinn got closer to the dome building, he noticed that there were several mechs stationed outside that had been destroyed, their cores completely ripped out. Mechs were a powerful device used in the war, but to power them they required an incredibly powerful beast crystal of a high tier. As he reached the entrance of the training center, he could see that 2 Rataclaws were standing out in front of the building. He decided to wait a little longer, hoping that the Rataclaws might move. 10 of 50 HP. But as he saw the message bring his health down once again, he was only getting even more aggravated. The rats didn't look like they would be leaving anytime soon, and Quinn needed to come up with a plan. As Quinn looked around him, he found a broken piece of the mech nearby. He picked it up and looked off into the distance. Using all his strength, he threw the piece of metal a great distance. The piece of metal landed exactly where he was aiming for, making a large clang sound as it fell on the mech. The rats then looked up at where the noise was coming from and quickly scurried off in the direction of the sound. This is my chance. Quinn, using all the powers in his legs, bolted for the entrance. He tried pushing the steel doors open, but there was no luck. As he looked around the door for anything, he spotted another access code machine. He immediately rushed forward, placing his hand on the machine and used his inspect skill. I hope these works don't let me down. An access code machine linked to the 2 steel doors. The combination is 333-462-53778. However, just as Quinn was inputting the code into the machine, the Rataclaws had returned. As the beasts saw him, they shrieked and called out another 2 of its friends. There were now 4 of the things. Come on! Come on! Beep! Damn, I must have put in the wrong number. He used his inspect skill once again, making sure he had the right code. He started inputting the numbers again when he suddenly felt something chomp down onto his leg. 9 of 50 HP. As he looked down, it was one of the rats, and the other 3 weren't too far behind it. The other 3 were now too close, and he no longer had any time to input the code. Flash step! Then Quinn was suddenly behind them, but he was still too close to the 4 rats. Flash step only had a distance of 5 meters at most. The rats turned and all ran forward towards him. I have no choice! He held out his palm and fired. Blood burst! A shotgun-like spray of blood was released from his hand, and it knocked back all 4 of the rats, killing the already injured one. 4 of 50 HP, 100 EXP. He then rushed forward to one of the rats on the ground, held both hands together, and slammed it down on another rat's head, killing the second one. 100 EXP. Now the other 2 rats had recovered and were quickly after Quinn once again. Out of desperation, he swung his hands and activated his blood swipe. Although this time, the blood swipes were strong and had killed each one in a single attack. 100 EXP, 100 EXP, 850 of 25,600 EXP, 2 of 50 HP. With his time running incredibly low, Quinn didn't even bother to get out the beast crystals. He went up to the door this time inputting the code correctly, and as he entered, he shut the door behind him, making sure it was locked. He was now in what looked like a reception area, a canteen of sorts, with several seats and a desk at the front. With his health running low, he had less than 2 hours to find the portal. Quinn fell to his knees in despair. He felt like this was his last chance. There was no way he had the time to go walking around the city looking for another room with a portal. 1 of 50 HP. So this is how my life ends, huh? Quinn said. Mom, Dad, why did you leave me on my own? Why did you give me this book? I thought when I got this book maybe I might be able to change something, but I guess not. Then the final hour had passed. 0 of 50 HP. HP has reached 0 due to hunger. Transformation will now begin. That night, Vorden struggled to sleep just like every other night. He couldn't remember the last time he got a good night's sleep. That's when he felt a slight tug on his arm. Hey, wake up, kid. Looks like you were having a nightmare. Ian said. As Vorden opened his eyes, he looked around and noticed that he was still in the pitch-black room. "Oh, sorry about that. I hope I wasn't making too much noise," Vorden replied. "Well, this is a scary place. A kid like you shouldn't be here on their own in the first place, so don't worry about it," said Ian. "Do you mind if we swap for a bit?" Ian then switched places with Vorden. While Ian lied on the uncomfortable hard floor, Vorden would look out for the gaps in the bookshelf, keeping watch. "Hey, Vorden, if you aren't going to kill him now, what about when we find the portal?" Brayton asked. "The advanced crystal he is carrying would be very helpful to us, and no one would find out. You've seen how weak he is, and now we have his ability, it would be easy to finish him off." "While I'm in charge, nobody gets hurt," Vorden replied, getting annoyed. After waiting what felt like an entire day, it seemed like Ian had finally woken up. "I'm telling you, I can't wait to get home," Ian said. Vorden turned around to look to Ian, seeing that he was struggling to get up. He offered his hand once again and pulled him up from the floor. But as Ian got off the ground, his face suddenly dropped. In one of the holes he had made, all that could be seen was a single large eyeball looking through. Ian immediately went to his waist and grabbed a small dagger, throwing it at the beast's eye. Then, when he pulled his hand back, the dagger flew back into his hand. "Let's get out of here!" Ian shouted as he kicked one of the shelves, knocking it over. As the two of them climbed on top of the fallen shelf, they could see that they had been surrounded. "I thought you were keeping a lookout," Ian said. "I was, but the small space would only let me see so far." They were completely surrounded, not just around them, but also above as well. A few of the slug creatures dropped from above, while the ones around them reached out with their tentacles. There were too many attacks at once. Ian then held out both of his hands with his palms open. Objects from all over the library started to vibrate. "Stick close to me, kid," Ian commanded, and Vorden did as he was told. "Repel!" At that moment, the ball exploded with an incredible force. Little pieces of scrap metal were flung out so hard, it had caused several puncture wounds in the beast's body, killing them all as it went through their brains and hearts. "Good thing this planet is covered in metal, huh?" Ian said with a smile on his face. "Come on then, let's not waste these crystals." The two of them went up to the dead slugs and started to carve out the crystals. After gathering the crystals, Ian had handed Vorden half of them. "Here, take it." "I can't, I didn't do anything." "Look, these are only basic tier crystals. I could earn these in my sleep." "Fine," Vorden said. Then, finally, the two of them spotted something. "You see that? Now, if I was going to put a portal anywhere, I would put it in there," Ian said, pointing at the large dome building. "What is it?" Vorden asked. "It looks like a training center." "That's exactly what it is, and it looks like it was well built. The beasts around here haven't even been able to scratch it, and it's big enough to build a secret base underneath." The two of them continued walking forward with their next destination in sight, the training center.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.